Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C, and this is Charlton and Big C Sports as we go worldwide. And I want to thank all of our followers for listening in and sending out lots of tweets. Today is beautiful April the 15th. That means that is also known, Big C, as Happy Tax Day for all you rich people out there. So thank you for keeping the economy going. April 15th.
Oh wait, I gotta go. Let me call you back in a minute. I gotta go file an extension, man. I'll be back in a minute.
Oh no, they will find you. That's one thing about the IRS. Worldwide, they will find you. You don't have to worry about finding them. So also, Big C, what a great week we've had here in California and especially around the world with the Golden State Warriors, and bienvenidos to all of our audience in Latin America, really trending big over in Europe as well. So thank you for listening in to Charlton and Big C Sports every Wednesday, actually every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Yes, sir, Big C.
Charlton, I guess since it's not football season, you can call California the Mexican sports right now.
Yeah.
Other than that, we look at it as like a Pop Warner league, okay? Let's go.
Hey, wait a minute. When our good old boys go down and beat your good old boys down in the great state of Texas, that's USC versus Alabama. They're already getting hyped about that game, Big C, out on the West Coast. Usually we don't get excited for football until September starts, Big C.
Charlton, let us know what type of paper you guys going to need. You going to need Charmin or what? So this going to be roll tide, okay?
I think USC and all their national championships, they brought back the great Lynn Swann, but people don't know that he's out there running routes, Big C. He's not just looking to be the athletic director.
With Lynn Swann out there, Charlton, all somebody got to do is hold up a picture and say the name of Jack Tatum.
Oh, that's
he's gonna run for cover.
That's dirty. That's dirty. But so was Jack. He was a great Raider player, though, Big C. But also, I know that we just got on great game. Golden State 73 wins. Kobe Bryant going for 60. We know that the best defense was played against him that night by the Utah Jazz, but he hit 60 anyway, Big C. What are your thoughts on what we can expect coming up on the weekend with NBA starting off, Big C?
It was a great week for a long NBA season that people were hoping that was over 20 games ago, Charlton.
Yeah.
But when you think about the accomplishments of Golden State this year, the 73 victories, that's akin to Barry Bonds hitting the 73 home runs. That's a mark that's sitting out there that may never be reached in basketball. Because no one thought 72 would ever be gotten to, but 73 was a phenomenal number to get to.
Yeah.
And you look at the overall performance of the NBA this year, Charlton. Steph Curry with 403.
Yeah, 402. Yeah, 402.
How can anybody ever think about that? But what he did was change the complexion of the NBA.
Yeah.
When you think about it, it became a dunk highlight reel. Now it's going to go back to the fundamentals of shooting the basketball. This is a league that Gino Auriemma could coach in now.
Yeah.
Because it's about the fundamentals of basketball. And when you look at the top key players in the NBA, a player like a Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio, who really doesn't get the credit for what he does, he'll be in the top 3 in the MVP voting. Kevin Durant, a much coveted free agent this year, Charlton, is a great jump shooter at 6'11", playing on the wing.
Yeah.
So, the guys who have diversity in their game, the NBA is going to move back out towards the arc a little more.
Yeah.
And it's going to make the game more exciting. The dunk is an anticlimax.
Yeah.
That three-point shot, you can give a guy a dunk all day long. You knock down enough threes, all he's going to get tired of jumping.
Yeah, that's true. And it seems like Golden State has so much talent. But, the thing that history always reminds us, Big C, is just like Mike Tyson when he fought Buster Douglas. Now, some people say that he was food poisoned over when he had that fight, but...
Well, he had a little Don King in him also.
Don King. In fact, after that fight, Don King, he was so happy for Buster Douglas, you would have thought that he was the promoter for Buster Douglas, Big C, for that fight.
I thought he was his boyfriend for a minute,
Well, he did have a penchant for finding guys who were on top, so you got to credit the great Don King. In fact, he's the one, just like Donald Trump, he coined Only in America. And when you think of Only in America, you talked about Kevin Durant maybe being the next great Laker because they have the money to find a way to sign anybody that they want to. Shaquille O'Neal last night, he was on ESPN, and he was thinking that Kevin Durant may also be the next great Laker, Big C. And your thoughts
that
on...
would be a very positive move bringing in Kevin Durant, Charlton. I mean, a lot of people talk to him going to the East Coast thinking he'd go back to Washington, where he had grown up.
Yeah.
But the Lakers would be more of a fit. As you talked about the salary cap rising this year in the NBA, as well as Kobe's salary money is going to be there.
Yeah.
And they need a marqueeism of a player.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant would instantly bring that back to Los Angeles. And they can put players with Kevin who would be happy to play with him. You know, we talked a lot about Westbrook and Love potentially going.
Yeah, they played at UCLA.
Love is still available to go there with Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
You know, you have the big man Hibbert in the middle. You have a bunch of young players. The Lakers are basically two veteran players away from being competitive, Charlton. Kevin Durant would solidify any organization. Russell Westbrook wants to be the man in OKC. Kevin Durant, L.A. is a city that can embrace him.
And speaking of a city that can embrace, this segment is also sponsored by Bud Light. As you good old boys down south, you like beer that tastes great, but also helps you lose weight, Big C. So is that why you like Bud Light?
That's all those West Coast softies drinking that light beer. You know, you haven't had a beer until you can take another notch out of your belt, okay?
Okay.
Try to loosen it up a little bit and lean back and enjoy a nice cold one.
Well, I know we talked about Durant, but he actually played at the University of Texas, and he was a lights-out shooter. I remember how great he was as a collegiate player, Big C, down in the great state of Texas. And that's why I was thinking with Love coming out to California, again, went to UCLA. He's already a fan favorite. They need people. It's not as if you have to convince people to go to a Laker game. Look at what they put up with the last 3 years. But they are the type of team that if they're not in the playoffs, it just seems like basketball did not even exist. With 15 million people in the LA basin, the number 2 market in the country, they have to find a way to get back on top because the Rams are coming in town and they're competing for that fan base, Big C.
Well, one of the things the Lakers have to do is look at the model that Danny Ainge did with the Celtics, okay?
Yeah.
When he brought in Brad Stevens had back-to-back runs in the Final Four a couple of years ago at Butler.
Yeah.
He brought Brad Stevens into the Celtics organization. But the key thing about that, Charlton, is that he got rid of all the old Grizzly players, okay?
Yeah.
All the old veterans who were set in their ways. He shipped them out of town. That's Danny Ainge in Boston. And he loaded up the team with a lot of young talent, a lot of young coachable talent that understood Brad Stevens' philosophy.
Yeah.
And if you look at the job that Brad has done in the last 2 years with Boston, Boston has the third best record in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's because you have players who bought into a coach, okay?
Yeah.
Not players saying, hey, I make more money than you, but they bought into a coach, they understood management, and the coach was on the same page. And he's put a winning tradition back in Boston, Charlton.
Well, Big C, this is funny because as you talk about a winning tradition up here in Northern California, and it's ironic because you know how we talk about the top stories in basketball over this past week? Number 1, Kobe retiring. Number 2, can Golden State get to 73? Well, just a little bit to the northeast, the great Sacramento Kings built a new Golden One Center downtown. But they got rid of another great coach in George Karl, who's been in the playoffs for 22 years. Coach Vadi Divak's the GM. But they want to appease DeMarcus Cousins, who had 1 year at Kentucky under the great Calipari and no playoff experience. They bring in Rajon Rondo, who played with the Celtics and won a championship with them under the great Doc Rivers. But they're trading coaches in Sacramento like you trade shoes. It doesn't make any sense, but what is it about this? Northern California is a great place. Obviously, Golden State is taking over. But there was a time back in the 2000s that the Kings were challenging the Lakers for championships. Now the Kings and the Lakers can't seem to find their way out of the backyard, Big C.
Well, you know, Charlton, that's back when they had Rick Adelman as the coach in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And he had a great foundation. He had a great base of players led by Chris Webber.
Yeah.
Vlade Divac was part of that organization as a player during that time. Bobby Jackson.
Yeah.
Doug Christie.
Yeah.
He had some wonderful players in
Mike
the lineup.
But
they had a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bibby at point guard, but they had a coach, Charlton. That was the key. They had a coach that could take control of the lassos there in Sacramento. And now you have all these young players that were one-and-done players in college, two-and-done. Yeah. And they come in and they're so ego-ridden. Yeah. They never won a championship in college. They came to the pros. They're not even going to get close to winning a championship in the pros. They're about making their money, getting the next tattoo, and seeing how disruptive they can be to an organization. Yeah. And it almost seems like now, Charlton, that the organizations don't have enough balls to get rid of people. They just let them stay around. They drag the organization down, and they're sitting and wondering what they got to do to win. Okay, let's find another coach. Why? Regardless of who you bring in, you've already established with the players that they're not the problem. It's already the coach.
Well, see,
and so you can bring in a dozen coaches, and you'll still end up with the same scenario.
Yeah, and to say the Kings underachieved is an understatement. They went 33-49, their best record since they were 38-44 prior to Marcus Cousins coming in, Big C. That's under the great Reggie Theus. And also, they're talking about, when you think about great coaches and you think about how the Golden State Warriors have built up when they had Mark Jackson and got rid of him, and now they have Kerr and that plan, but they're looking at Vinny Del Negro, Jeff Hornacek, Kevin McHale.
And what did Del Negro coach this past year?
Yeah, that's the point.
And Hornacek, what did he coach this last year?
That's the point. Kevin McHale.
Okay, that's what we're talking about. You're going in, you're getting retreads who weren't good enough to coach in the NBA this past season.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of players that don't respect nor care about what coach you bring in.
Yeah.
And so you're going to end up with a worse record than what you had under Carl. And then you're going to say, well, you're trying to remold the team. What?
Yeah.
Just tell them that you expect losers.
Remolding the team meaning if we just saw the great contrast in sports, and all around the world people were watching Golden State, and everyone is saying, well, what is it that makes Golden State so great? Is it Steph Curry? Is it Draymond Green? Is it Andre Iguodala, which was the NBA Finals MVP last year, the sixth man of the year, willing to come off the bench? What is it that makes them so great? Well, you notice one thing, the coaches have the command and the respect of the players. That's the one thing that I see. And you talked about the great Rick Adelman. I never saw the dysfunction in a team that they have now. It's not the coaches. Actually, if you look at Coach Carl, he has a better record than Adelman overall as a coach in the playoffs. But Adelman had players that listen, like Weber, like Divac, like Christie, and Bibby, and all those great players. So when you look at what's happening in the playoffs, and I know you talked about the great Danny Ainge, and he was always a backseat to the great Larry Bird and Parrish. And McHale, he never tried to be the guy the way DeMarcus Cousins wants to be the guy. So when you look at people moving in and out of circles, I always thought they'd get rid of him, but I'm disappointed that they haven't because it's going to be more dysfunction next year. If you can take a guy like DeMarcus Cousins, who's an NBA All-Star player, but he needs someone to tell him, shut up, it's going to be my way or the highway, and the organization won't back that, what place would take a player like that and succeed, Big C? Have you ever seen that in all of your 40-plus years of covering sports?
Well, Charlton, when you look at it in totality, what starter in the NBA should not be an all-star player?
Yeah.
You're making millions of dollars to play a child's game, and you can't perform. DeMarcus Cousins just needs to have, really that slap of reality.
Yeah.
And nobody in the league is willing to do that for him, especially in Sacramento. They've coddled this guy.
Yeah.
They've accepted all his negativity. And when you've accepted all this negativity, you've embraced it. I would find the team even worse than Sacramento, the trading. I mean, he'd be playing in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
If I was a GM next year, in Sacramento, he'd be playing in Philadelphia. You'd find out what it's like to win only 9 games during the season. But that's where he would go in a total obscurity. Send him to Milwaukee. No one would know who he is up there. Let him be in one of those cold outposts where no one cares. And, the team is not going to be any better.
Yeah.
And he'll see that he doesn't make a team better. But that's what they sold him on in Sacramento. Without you, we can't win.
Yeah.
So as you go, we go. So you can run this team down and be the demise of the organization. But if you ever decide that you want to get your head on straight, stop having an attitude and be happy making your $40 million a year, we might win a game.
Well, when you think about, you brought it to our attention yesterday, people kept saying how great Kobe Bryant is. And he's a great player. But you said, he only has 5 championships. Well, they talked about how great Michael Jordan was. Well, yeah, he's great, but he only has 6 championships.
6.
Russell has 11. I think he has one on his toe.
Himself, Charlton. One player has 11. Bill Russell, and during his days as a player,
how many times did he cuss out his coach?
During his days as a coach,
Yeah.
during his days as a commentator,
Yeah.
Bill Russell always took the high road. One of the most respected gentlemen in the history of not just the NBA, but in sports, Charlton. He's been a world-class act his entire life. When you look at where he grew up in San Francisco during segregation, going to the University of San Francisco, winning 2 back-to-back NCAA championships back in the 50s, going to the Olympics, winning a gold medal at the Olympics, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was in the NBA. Before he lost the championship series in the NBA, Charlton, he had as many rings, if not one more, than what Michael Jordan had. So when you talk about guys winning championships,
yeah,
just the consecutive championships that Bill Russell, the class of the NBA all-time history-wise,
yeah,
won more in consecutive years than anybody has won their entire career, Charlton.
Well, I think about some of the great players over the years, and this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the Escalade. You can only get it there new, and when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And also, Big C, as you're talking about great players, I think about Kareem. I think about Bill Russell. I think about the great Tim Duncan that we still have the pleasure of seeing. Hakeem Olajuwon.
Think about Charlton if Kareem had been a selfish player while he was in the NBA.
Yeah.
He was the most phenomenal offensive tool ever to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
He fashioned a shot that nobody could challenge.
Yeah.
So if he shot the ball, how many times did Kobe shoot the other night?
I think he shot 500, but they said 50.
Okay. If Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had an average 50 shots a game during his NBA career, okay?
Yeah.
Now, he shot 62% from the floor for his career.
Yeah.
So now, if he's putting up 50 shots a game, that's going to put him at least at where we're at, averaging
a lot.
roughly 56 points a game.
Yeah.
That's not even counting the free throw line because everybody hung on him like he was a clothesline putting clothes on it. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar would have easily averaged 60 points a game for his career, Charlton.
Yeah.
But he wasn't selfish. He was a team player. When he was in Milwaukee, he took a step back to make that a winning organization. He came to the Lakers. He took a step back, and he passed the torch off to younger players.
Yeah.
He could have been the dominant player his entire Laker career, but when you had a Magic Johnson, you had a James Worthing, you had a Byron Scott, you had a Michael Cooper, he would defer to other players. But when you call on the big fella, he would get you points because he was unstoppable, even at 42 playing in the NBA.
Yeah.
If he wanted to go to the hole, there was no answer for him, Charlton.
Well, thinking about going to the hole, no answer for him. Just a little bit of Major League Baseball scores. The Blue Jays 4, the Yankees 2. The White Sox over the Twins 3-1. It was the Indians 6 and the Tampa Rays nothing. The Rangers 6, Orioles 3, and the Royals 6, the Astros 2 in the American League. And also, Big C, when you talk about the great players and how they really do make a difference. And I know Charles Barkley's never won a championship, but they used to call him, I think, the round pound of rebound or something like that. Round pound of rebound. And he's not tried to live up to that name lately, Big C, because I think he finds everything he can to make himself more round.
Last time I saw Charles, I didn't know whether it was him or the Michelin tire man.
Wait, don't tell Charles he doesn't have a championship, okay? That's just the funniest thing, because he's always challenging Shaq, and Shaq has enough championship rings to fit on one hand, and Charles doesn't have anything, but he always seems like he knows more than Shaq. I just think that's funny, Big C.
Well, you got to realize, Charles is challenging everybody to an eating contest.
Yeah.
He can out-eat anybody on that set. His biggest Shaq is Charles can out-eat.
Well, I like the great Charles Barkley. Wait a minute, wasn't he talking about running for governor of the great state of Alabama? What would the good old boys do if they had to answer to Charles Barkley, Big C? They only like it when you're in a uniform, from what I understand.
I think that's why it was only talk, Charlton. He backed down as soon as he saw that, hey, this may not be my cup of tea.
I think Charles Barkley's thinking he could run for governor if he kept his jersey on, but outside of that, he's just African American to them. I don't think he won't get the same applause, I don't think, Big C down south.
No, he won't. He won't be the new George Wallace in Alabama.
Okay, I just thought that was funny. Also, just getting back into baseball, the National League, Cardinals 7, Brewers nothing, Phillies 3, the Padres nothing, the Nationals 6 over the Braves 2, and the Rockies 11, the Giants 6. Great baseball happening this week with the Dodgers and the Giants. You have Kershaw and Baumgartner going at each other, Big C. But also more news down in the South. We talked about the NFL beat, and the Rams are trying to make a splash in L.A., so they made a big move trying to get in position to draft a quarterback. Have they learned anything at all, Big C, from the last fiascos of drafting quarterbacks down for the Rams, Big C?
Well, Charlton, this is an organization, and, Jeff Fisher's the head coach.
Yeah, why?
Now, the last time he drafted a quarterback in the first round, that was Sam Bradford, okay?
Yeah.
But the last time he drafted a quarterback that helped him in the first round, he was coaching in Houston.
Yeah.
And, that guy named McNair, who took him to a Super Bowl at one point in his career.
Yeah, but Super Bowls don't count, Big C. Can't we just all gather around somebody that they want to tell us is great? Who cares about Super Bowls? Big C.
Well, Charlton, if we go back and look at the quarterbacks who were drafted in the first round since the year 2000,
yes,
all of these Mel Kiper predictions of the greatness and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, since the year 2000, help me out with my math, because it's almost like adding up the teams in the Big Ten.
Okay.
You know, I lose count.
The Big 18 now.
Okay. So when you think about it, Charlton, since 2000, there's been 30 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, okay?
Yeah.
30 quarterbacks. Of
And
those 30 quarterbacks,
yeah,
Charlton, only 6 have been to Super Bowls.
Yeah.
6 out of 30. Now, Mel Kiper said all of these guys would be great.
Yeah.
Of those 6, Charlton, that have been to the Super Bowl, 8 of them are out of the NFL.
Yeah, but
so
see,
when we talk about what Mel Kiper knows about predicting quarterback greatness,
yeah,
if the Rams have any sense, you got one of the best young running backs in pro football. I only put Adrian Peterson right now in front of Todd Gurley, okay?
Yeah.
And what did the Minnesota Vikings do? They built an offensive line to help Adrian Peterson stay healthy and pick up yards.
Yeah.
Now, the Rams, for the past 4 or 5 years, have built a great defensive line, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're a lineman or 2 away from having a great offensive line. And if you got 2 great tackles in the NFL, that leads you to success because you can protect both sides of the quarterback and you can open holes for your running back.
Yeah.
Now, Larry Tunsil is on the board. You can talk about these quarterbacks, and everybody's talking about Jared Goff. Jared Goff never won a game in Los Angeles while he was in college. So.
Yeah, but why does winning games matter, Big C? You always want to go with the facts. Can't you just go with the emotional appeal? They want a guy that looks like the quarterbacks from the 1950s. They don't care about winning. They just care about the image, it seems, Big C. They make it seem like he's the next John Elway.
If I wanted some emotion, I'd go ask somebody for a date, okay?
I understand.
That's what I do. But right now, I'm playing football.
Hey,
and when I play football, it's not about emotion. It's about attitude.
Hey, you know what?
You got some soft blonde-haired kid sitting in the back. And let's look at Blaine Gabbert, who was the last blonde-haired quarterback that, Kiper predicted greatness for.
Yeah.
And his record as a starter, I think he has 5 or 6 wins in 4 years being in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he rolled in at the start in Jacksonville. He had him rated higher than Cam Newton. And we don't know what Cam Newton did last year or even as a rookie in the NFL.
Well, see, you keep talking about...
There's no record of that.
But you keep talking about guys that win.
Sitting here and looking at these kids, I mean... Jeff Goff's not even the best quarterback in California, not even in his local area.
Well, why does this win-loss record matter, Big C? Can't we just get a guy that looks like what we want him to look like?
Do these guys even realize that Kevin Hogan's in the Bay Area?
I don't even...
The best quarterback is not the second best quarterback in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how good Kevin Hogan is. You know, Pac-12 championships, Pac-12 MVP.
Yeah.
So the Rose Bowl beat the brakes off of Goff every time they played each other. But that doesn't matter.
No.
You know, plays with an NFL-style offense, NFL-style players.
Well, this is...
Goff playing with the cow. I mean, this was excuse me. They beat Air Force in a bowl game, Charlton.
Well,
Air Force Academy.
Yeah, well, that's pretty big. That's impressive, beating Air Force.
Anybody got drafted from the Air Force Academy.
Well, think about what they said about the great quarterback Hogan out of Stanford. Again, we talked about it yesterday, but he threw for over 2,867 yards, 27 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions against NFL caliber defenses, Big C. Now, this is what they said is wrong with him, okay? He has mechanical flaws from the top to the bottom. He struggles to put enough air under the ball downfield, and he lacks the zip when throwing the intermediate level. Okay, this guy went to the Rose Bowl 2 out of 3 years. They've had more players drafted out of Stanford into the NFL than any other team in the Pac-12, and Coach David Shaw has trusted this guy to help win more Pac-12 championships under Shaw than they did under Harbaugh. But obviously that's not good enough to go to the NFL and succeed. They take a guy that never beat him, and that's what they're saying they're looking for a Big C.
Well, isn't that the same thing they're saying about Cordell Jones at Ohio State, Charlton?
Yeah.
You know, you look at Urban Meyer's record at Ohio State, Charlton. In his first year at Ohio State, he was undefeated.
Yeah.
They were on probation.
Yeah.
It took them 2 years to lose a game, Charlton.
Yeah. That's true.
You know, with Urban Meyer. So it took them 2 years. It took Jeff Goff 2 weeks to lose a game of Cal.
Speaking of 2 weeks, this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California BMW dealer, home of the ultimate driving machine. And when you go down and drive it, you have to drive the all-new 600 horsepower M7, also known as a 760 Li, and tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And now, Big C, one of the things I look at when they talk about golf, this kid threw a lot of balls because they had to throw the ball a lot last year because they were giving up so much.
Spread offense with Sonny Dykes. Sonny Dykes came in there and started running the spread offense, and that's what's wrong with so many young quarterbacks now, Charlton. They run this spread offense. They don't drop back. They don't know how to call plays in the huddles. They look to the sideline, Charlton. They see these huge cue cards with 4 squares on them. Figure out which one the call is from a hand signal.
Yeah.
But as far as getting to the line of scrimmage, calling an audible, everybody's looking to the sideline. The receivers, the running backs, the offensive linemen. The lack of intelligence that these quarterbacks possess now, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's what you see. But, you know, when you watched Ohio State play, you didn't see Cordell Jones looking at these cue cards, Charlton.
No.
You did. You know, he had to process what the coach was signaling in or the backup quarterbacks were signaling into the game.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and there's a kid at Western Kentucky, his name evades me right now. He's one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the draft. He played under
Brandon Doherty. Western Kentucky.
Doherty. He played under Brian Brom at Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
Now, if you talk about a bona fide quarterback, the best 2 quarterbacks, the best 3 quarterbacks in the draft, Charlton, are Jones at Ohio State, Doherty at Western Kentucky, and Kevin Hogan.
Yeah.
Now, they may not be popular amongst the talking heads, but as far as NFL talent, NFL ready, running NFL schemes, those 3 quarterbacks could step into the NFL 2 months after the draft and start games, Charlton.
Well, when I look at Hogan and I compare him to even Carson Wentz, they talk about Carson Wentz as if they went through the Big Ten and won the championship in the Big Ten. But we know they did not. And when you look at what you have, when you look at Hogan, he's beaten USC. He's beaten Oregon. He's beaten Notre Dame.
North Dakota's in the Southern Prairie Conference, aren't they?
Well, they won. I could miss some type of Valley Conference. I don't even know. But the point is, his numbers don't. He only threw for 1,600 yards. 1,600 yards, but he's getting more rep than the guy Hogan out of Stanford. And when you think about the Pac-12, it's a wide open passing offense. No doubt about that. It's not as smash mouth as you good old boys down in the SEC, and I think you'll find out when USC lays a smackdown on you good old boys from Alabama.
You'll learn what a bloody nose is when you show it down here.
Okay. We'll find out when the men of Troy come running up and down the field on you guys again. But I think
when the toys come running up and down the field.
No, men of Troy.
I thought you said the men with their toys running up and down the field.
The great Ronnie Lott, Marcus Allen, you had Anthony Davis, Garrett, O.J. Simpson.
Hold on, Charlton. Those uniforms are hanging in the archives. They're not showing up to play in the game. They might stand on the sidelines, but when they start walking, they're going to need some WD-40 to get rid of
Hey, I hear that Reggie Bush might even make a cameo appearance, so you might want to be careful what you ask for, Big C. But also, when you think about the football and all the talk about how we have NFL, they just set the schedule for next year. I think the Oakland Raiders are playing the Houston Texans down in Mexico this season. The first time ever for a Monday night game, 2 teams in the United States playing in Mexico. And I wonder if Brock Osweiler will get away with hitting anybody because they don't seem to care when he pushes women around in the great state of Texas, Big C.
Well, you know, I think he might get a little pushback down. Well, you know, it's hard to say, Charlton. You look at what Johnny Manziel has been able to get away with.
Yeah, right.
You know, he's done everything he wanted, you know, but, you know, down in Texas, they're so hungry for a winner there in Houston. You look at the number of quarterbacks that have gone through the Texans organization, Charlton. It's really no different than the number of quarterbacks that have gone through the Cleveland Brown organization.
Yeah.
It's always the next great guy up.
Yeah.
And you know, they drafted a kid a couple of years ago out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And, you know, Mel Kiper was stating he was the best quarterback in the draft. He can't even get on the field.
Yeah.
And, you know, they brought in guys as far back as Ryan Mallett, who had been discarded by New England.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you look at this organization, they're a little befuddled as far as what they want to put behind center.
Yeah.
You know, after J.J. Watts and Brian Cushing, the team really had nothing to look forward to. I mean, they made a terrible draft pick a couple of years ago in Jadeveon Clowney. And I think they thought they were bringing in a circus clown or something because that's how he danced around on the field.
Well, speaking of dancing around the field, this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Ford dealer, home of the all-new F-150, and they build it Ford tough. When you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, also with Fisher, again, I don't understand why he's looking for another quarterback, especially Carson Wentz. This is what one of the scouts said about Carson Wentz. He has good touch down the field and makes excellent throws on the move, and he's a run threat. I thought with Colin Kaepernick running so much, they didn't want running quarterbacks anymore. And also, when he throws the ball down the field, what kind of talent is he completing passes against downfield? He only passed for 1,661 yards, or 1,651 yards, against most players that will never even be looked at by NFL scouts, Big C. So what are they thinking?
They won't even get a free agency tryout. When you talk about his statistics,
yeah,
and you look at Case Keenum, the quarterback who ended the season as a starter for the I can't remember which team they are now. They're the Rams.
Right.
I was going to say St. Louis, Los Angeles, but the Rams, okay?
Yeah.
Case Keenum came out of college, Charlton, with over 19,000 yards passing. 19,000, over 120 touchdowns. Now you think about it, add up the numbers between Jeff Goff and Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Their numbers combined, as we talked about Kobe and Michael, their numbers don't equal the numbers of Case Keenum in college.
Yeah, and Keenum almost had as many yards passed as Will Chamberlain had women, so you know that's impressive, Big C.
That means he knows how to put it up.
No pun intended. And also, when you think of putting it up, Big C, as we come up to the close of our program today, and again, Monday through Friday, worldwide, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Charlton and Big C Sports. You can give us a tweet, and we'll love to acknowledge you on our next program. But going into the weekend, we know we have the NBA starting off, which is always my favorite time of year, Big C. Doesn't matter if it's just Golden State or if it's the Lakers or whoever you're looking at on the West Coast. But to me, it's exciting watching it. We have NHL. The playoffs are going with the NHL. And, of course, baseball is always going to be good after the first 30 games. Just your thoughts, Big C. I know you good old boys down south, you only think about football. You probably don't even know that we're talking about NBA basketball starting off down there in Alabama. But what are you looking for this weekend, Big C, with all the sports happening?
Well, we got some great college basketball down here in the SEC conference. I want you guys to know that.
Hold on. Did you say basketball? Did you say basketball in the Southeast?
Well, when you think about it, where did Bo Jackson play ball at? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, he played at Auburn. Well, that's an SEC, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
The greatest athletes of all time. My bad. I wasn't thinking.
Don't forget, we got OJ, we got Marcus Allen, we have the great Reggie Bush. We even have the gentleman that should have won, McCaffrey, should have won the Heisman last year. California has its athletes too, Big C.
Oh, but who won the Heisman last year, Charlton?
Well, the SEC.
Don't worry about these NCAA championships, okay? Don't worry about the Heismans where they live. That's okay. You guys got all that water on the West Coast out there. You can go to the beach.
Yeah.
You can sit out there and sunbake and sulk over not winning the championships and the trophies.
Right.
You got it all. But, you got the NBA playoffs kicking off, Charlton, this weekend.
Yeah.
It's just a great time. That first round is going to be challenging for several teams. But as we talked about, you got Golden State and San Antonio in the West. I would love to see Boston, with Brad Stevens as their head coach, continue the run that they've made. I mean, it would be so great. I mean, everybody wants to see LeBron with one more run at it.
No, not everybody.
Find a way to squeak in there, Charlton.
Yeah.
You're talking about a highlight reel for the NBA.
Yeah. Well, thinking about a highlight reel for the NBA, Big C, in the last minute here. Again, just your thoughts on how great it's been over the past week. We've had the Masters. We just concluded the Masters last week. We had the Final Four tipping off for the men and women last week. We had another year of college athletes not being paid, and these coaches making millions, Big C. Even bragging about wearing $3,000 suits. I just thought that was very brash. But also, when you talk about sports, it brings everybody together, especially you good old boys down the south chewing on barbecue and deep fried biscuits. So get ready for the California boys when we come chasing you in the football kickoff classic. Okay.
High blood pressure, just a neighbor next door.
Well, speaking of high blood pressure and your neighbors next door, our show is out of time again, Big C. And we want to thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you. But you can always catch up to us every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on the Charlton and Big C Sports. We thank you. We appreciate you. We hope you have a super fantastic day.